Welcome to your July 2024 overview Sidereal Astrology Forecast. Hey, my friend, Danie C. Muniz here, intuitive astrologer, spiritual counselor, healer. And I am so blessed and honored to be with you today to talk all things July. So, we kick off this month with our sun in Gemini, and then about halfway through, we will move into Cancer. So, we are going to talk about everything that is happening over the first couple of weeks here in July, with our sun still being in Gemini. And then we're going to move into our sun in Cancer and really what that second half of the month will look like. I can tell you, stay tuned because we've got retrogrades, we've got Mercury changing zodiac signs, we've got Venus, Mars, we've got a whole lot of things happening this month, and I can't wait to share all of it with you beginning now. All right, let's dive in. So, as I said, we kick off our July. Let's do a quick state of the union, is what I like to call it. Where is everybody hanging out as we kick off the beginning of this month? So we see, well, if I go back to actually, there we go. If we go to July, we can see that our sun is right here in Gemini. We've got Venus in Gemini. We've got Mercury over here in Cancer. We've got Jupiter still making its way through Taurus. We've got Uranus in Taurus. We've got our Mars over here in Aries. We come down here, we can see Neptune is still hanging out in Pisces, and Saturn is retrograde in Aquarius. So Saturn just went retrograde I'll show you right here, on the 30th. So it's last day of the month in June. Our Saturn goes retrograde. So I do want to talk a little bit about that Saturn in retrograde energy. And then we also have Pluto, who is a retrograde as well. So I want to tell you a little bit about these retrogrades. Plus, we have some more retrogrades happening this month that I definitely am going to share with you. So that's where everybody is. There's our State of the Union, where everybody is. But let's dive a little bit deeper. So first, I want to talk about this Saturn retrograde because this is going to be the background of everything that I'm going to talk about today. So this is going to be hanging out in the background this entire month, and it's going to be all the way till November 14th. So right here from June 29th all the way till November 14th, we're going to have Saturn in retrograde. Now, anytime a planet goes retrograde, my friend, if you are new around here, all that means is the REs, reflect, reset, review, rewind, right? It's that opportunity to come inside internally, even though Saturn is one of our more outer planets, where we look at Mercury, Mars, Venus, the moon, right, as being the sun, right, as being more of our personal planets. They're closer to the sun, so they're closer to us, so they're more of our personal planets. And we look at the planets like Jupiter and Uranus, Pluto, Saturn. Those are all our outer planets. Okay, Neptune. So it definitely hits this more of a collective type energy whenever those outer planets go retrograde, but they also are for us to reflect and review those areas of our life that this planet, in particular Saturn, rules over or governs. And so right off the bat, Saturn it does rule corporations, it rules government, it rules like a big business. It's the foundations, the traditions, the structures in our world. right? If we think of government and corporations, big business, right? Those are very foundational pieces of our world. And so when we're looking at a Saturn going retrograde, we're looking at evaluating those particular areas, which I find it very interesting every single time we have, because Saturn goes retrograde around this time every single year, right? This isn't something that happens once in a blue moon. Saturn goes retrograde every single year. And so there's usually a period towards the last half of the year where we start seeing planets go retrograde. And so we saw Pluto went retrograde. Now Saturn's going retrograde. We're going to have a few others going retrograde this month as well. And so this is that time of us to kind of slow down and reflect, review, or reassess. And in particular, this year happens to be an election year. Now, we're talking about Saturn here. Saturn does rule government. So this is an opportunity for us to reassess government, to reassess the structures of what that is. And I think in this year in particular, there's a lot of us looking at it, right? Looking at how is this functioning and how is this working? There's pros and cons to it, right? Whatever your beliefs are, there's pros and cons to it, but there is an opportunity for us to reassess. Okay, so I just want to put that out there as like something for us to do on the back, right? In our back of our thinking, back of our minds, as we're reassessing how these bigger structures, corporations, foundations in our life are actually showing up. Now, let's look at this more on a personal level, because anytime we're looking at Saturn, this is also the structures, the foundations, the priorities, the goals that we have in our life. So this is an opportunity, and I love this, right? If we look at this, my friend, from we look at it from a bigger standpoint. We like take that viewpoint of like an eagle here, and we look down. This is the middle of the year, right? We're ending quarter two. We're ending the first half of the year from the Gregorian calendar. Yes, I agree. From the Gregorian calendar viewpoint, this is one viewpoint that we can look at, right? And so as we're looking at that part, we're reflecting on the past 6 months, reflecting on what has happened, right? As we think about what is coming next, right? So in order for us to look at and make sure that we're on track for whatever it is that we want to call into our life over this period of time, however we want to look at that, there's an opportunity for us right now to look at reevaluating, reassessing our efforts, what we have actually done, not what we think we have done, not what we, are dreaming that we did, but actual facts, right? Facts of what we actually did, where our focus was, what were our priorities, and noticing that and being like, wow, okay, that's interesting. Now, what needs to shift, or what do I want to enhance as I move forward into this next 6 months? And so, this is the opportunity where we get to kind of step into that, which is what I really love about the Saturn retrograde. This is really looking at the key elements of life, your different areas of life. So there are, you can find, you can Google the Wheel of Life, and there's 8 categories. Some people have 12 categories. They chop it up in different ways, but we're just looking at the big and major components of life and looking at where we are. It's one of the first things we did when I started the Cosmic Alignment program just a couple of weeks ago, was we sat down and we looked at the Wheel of Life and evaluated where we are. Where are we on the different areas of our life? How satisfied are we in the different areas of our life? And where have we put our focus, right? And where do we now want to put our focus over these next 60 days? And that's just for that. That's for that challenge that we get to do here. But this is a time for us to really go inside and identify, revisit, and see what's working and what's not working as we move towards what it is, the foundations, the structures, the goals that we have in our life. So I love that. I love this opportunity that we here with Saturn to do that as we're beginning this retrograde period. All right, so let's dive into this first part of the month where our sun will be moving through Gemini. You can see right here, we're at 15 degrees Gemini, 16 degrees on the first. So we have a couple of different things here I want to point out is we've got right here on the 2nd, we have the sextile over here to Mars, and we're going to have that all the way through the middle of August. So there is this really good boost in confidence, boost in vitality, and courage, and strength. This is where we can take on those more difficult projects, maybe that we've kind of put off. It's like, okay, I've got the energy to get in and to do them. Now, I'm going to say this is really good to do this first half of the month because we're going to see when Mars moves into Taurus, that energy is going to dampen just a little bit. So if there's something that you want to get going, that you want to get off the ground and have the energy and vitality for it, now is the best time to do it. These first couple of weeks here before Mars moves into Taurus. So then this next one I want to point out here is right here on the 5th. So this is right here on Friday. At the end of this week, right around new moon, we've got Saturn trine the sun. So this is going to impact our new moon, just FYI. So there is whenever we're talking about Saturn, I talked about Saturn and his retrograde period, but so he is retrograde, right? So remember, that's in the background. But when the sun and Saturn are together, we're reevaluating, right? Because he's in retrograde, our patience, our persistence, our determination, our practicality. Like, are we doing the practical things to get the results that we're looking for? We might feel more responsible or take on extra burdens during this time. One of the best ways to use this transit in particular is to pass on your information to the next group, to the next generation, to the next, to the people who have not quite gained the knowledge or perspective that you have. Remember, like sometimes when we're teaching people, it's because we're just one step ahead. And so this is a really good time to like give back in that way of like, I've learned something and I'm going to share it with you. Even as a simple thing, it doesn't have to be this life-changing thing. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. It can be something that is super small and super, super simple. Now, as we continue on, there's one that's coming in here that I really want to point out, and that's here on the 8th. Yep, right here. We have the Sun square Chiron. Now, Chiron is the wounded healer, right? We've heard this before, is where we start having some insecurities come up, things that have been unresolved, they start to come to the surface. So this is an opportunity for us to overcome those feelings of insecurity, not being enough, criticism, doubt, worry. This is time for us to really work and heal through some of those things. And this is going to be here through the 21st. So we're going to see this through probably, most of that month here of just allowing ourselves to show up authentically, to show up as ourselves. I was just talking to a client just a little bit ago, and it was like, why do we ever hold anything back from people that we are in relation with? Why do we hold things back, right? That is where the walls are built, right? When we're allow ourselves to truly express. And that's what this is right here, allowing ourselves to release all of those insecurities around what are they going to think? Are they still going to like me? Am I too much? Am I not enough? And like all of those things. And when we're just us, the people that are around us are the people who are truly and authentically liking us because of just who we are, just who we are. So I really love that this is coming in here in July for us as all of this other stuff is kind of happening. Now, if we go a couple days forward here to 12th, we're going to see the sun sextile. There we go right here, Uranus. And we do have Uranus who is going to be conjunct Mars. So I'll talk about that in just a second. But when we're looking at this sun sextile Uranus, which happens on the 12th, and it'll be there for a couple of weeks, all the way to the 24th. Whenever we're talking with a sextile with Uranus, with any planet, especially the sun though, we're going to see new things coming in. We're going to see these unexpected encounters. We're going to see things that are, unorthodox that are happening. There's a lot of like, it's difficult to stick to a routine. Let me just say, because it's like, I want this and I want to change things up. It's like this very fun energy of like trying something new and being in rebellion type energy. Let me just say, definitely in a rebellion type energy, because Uranus is the rebellion of all the planets. So it's wanting to move on to something new. It's wanting to try something different. It doesn't like to stay in the stuck and stagnant in any way. So there's this nice, really flow of energy coming through here. So remember how I said like that beginning of the month with Mars is like, let's get things going, let's get things started. Uranus then is going to come in here at the middle of the month to bring in this like fun and excitement energy still. So really beautiful time. Now, I want to talk about this Mars conjunct Uranus here, because as I said, whenever we're talking about Uranus, it's change. With Mars, though, there's an urgency for change, because Mars is that motivator, that determined planet that wants to get things done. So there's this strong energy or the strong pull to break free from anything that is restricting you, anything that is making you feel closed in or stuck. It's like, I just want to break free. I just need to breathe, right? I just need to open. I need to expand. So there's a lot of that wanting to come through here with Uranus, and that is on the 6th. So we saw that start to move into place. Actually, let me get rid of there we go. We'll see this right here on the 6th. And this is going to go all the way to the end of the month on the 23rd. So be aware of an urgency or an urge for acting kind of hastily, because that's something that can come in, or even erratic. Like you might look at things and people might look at you and be like, this feels really erratic, or you might look at others and be like, they're kind of all over the place, right? There could be some of this energy coming through here as well. So this is also a reminder. And since we are talking about being in an air season, which can kind of really make these things move, is great time to sit in meditation, even though meditation is probably one of the hardest things to do right now. But guided meditations or hypnosises where you're like being guided through something really helps the mind, right? Stay focused on something where it's doing something and it's not just trying to be nothing, because it gets really hard during this period. But grounding yourself, grounding your energy. Right now, I'm doing a daily somatic practice that is really helping me ground into my body, ground into my breath, and just ease everything. So that would be something I'd recommend. Channeling this energy, because it can be a little erratic. Channeling the energy into work, into hobbies, into relationships, like really using this as a fuel is actually a really good opportunity. All right, let's go ahead. Since we're in Mars now, let's go ahead and look at a couple of things. So Mars, as I did say, is in Aries, and we won't see Mars move out of Aries until the 12th, and then it will move into Taurus. So let me talk about little things that are a couple of things that are happening that have kind of been here, but then are going to happen right as that starts to change. So we do have Mars and its sextile over here to Saturn, and we've got the sextile over here to the Sun. We had that connection here with the Sun and Venus for a while. Right? These have been kind of moving together for a bit here, but with this Mars sextile Venus, and this will be to the 10th of July. This is very social interactions, a lot of confidence energy here, especially as it relates to dating or the area of money and love and beauty. So feeling really attractive is also really, really nice. There's like dating during this time. So for those of you that might be dating, there's like this playful energy around it, being very playful with somebody. Or like a strong, could also be like strong attraction energy with these two. Now, if you're in a relationship already, you might find that you're wanting to be more playful with your partner, wanting to bring, some fun energy into the relationship, maybe a little bit more. If you are wanting to kind of put yourself out there for business, for work, I would say this is actually a really good time for self promotion. So, really like talking about yourself and how great you are, because you are great, my friend. But like, because you'll have a little bit more of that confidence here. So, we've had this for a bit now, but with the way things are kind of, coming together, I'm going to say this first week here in July, I feel really good. The other one that we've seen is this conjunction. Well, we okay, the Saturn. I already talked about the Saturn, but the one I want to talk about is this sextile over here to Neptune that is coming in on the 12th. So let's go over to the 12th. Okay, so we've got the Uranus conjunction. We've got this sextile over here to the sun, which is really boosting that confidence. And then we've got this sextile over here to Neptune. And this is going to be from the 12th all the way to the 28th. So this is more of like a mystical allure. This is like you're more in tuned on a spiritual level. So more in tune with your own spirituality, more in tune with your own spiritual self, your spiritual body, and also attracting and connecting to the things that are also in alignment in that vibrational frequency as well. So it's like really attracting the people. So if you're looking to attract love, if you're looking to attract friendships, money, like this is a really good time to kind of pull those things in or call those things in by getting in energetic alignment with whatever that thing is. Really, there's also really good healing energy around here too, especially as it relates to, I'm going to say, money probably would be one of them, but more so on kind of healing some of the things that have been you've kind of put off that are kind of holding you down from taking that next step. And what I mean by that is whenever we're talking about Neptune is like you've come to the end and ready to like transcend into the next thing, right? The 5D, whatever it might be, like ready to leave this plane, this reality, this 3D experience and move on, like move on to the next thing. And oftentimes there's things that are holding us back. Like it makes me think of, movies that you may have seen in the past where like ghosts get stuck, right? And there's this idea that ghosts get stuck because there's unresolved things. And so we here, right, are able to work on things, are able to evaluate things, are able to release things so that we are a clear vessel to be able to leave. Like our soul, my firm belief is our soul comes here to learn some lessons. And when it's ready to move on, it's ready to move on. It's got to learn though, right? And we are in that place of learning and understanding and coming to a remembrance, right? As we move through life. And so this is an opportunity for us to remember, right? Some of the things that maybe we have forgotten or get in tuned with that are actually part of us and we had at one point, but we might have lost. So this is a really good opportunity for some of those spiritual truths to actually come forward for us. So really creative energy as well. So for any creative passions you might have, music, art, dance, drama, those are also really good. It's really good energy for all of that this month. So explore, my friend, have some fun. All right. So I did mention Mars was moving into Taurus. So right here on the 12th, you can see that Mars moved into Taurus. So it was in Aries, which is where it's home. It's at home in Aries and it loves to be in the go, go, go warrior type energy. When it moves into Taurus, things slow down. There's more caution when it comes to decision making. There is much more determination here where we're feeling so determined that we get stuck and stubborn. We want we're focused more on the long term and not the short term. So with Aries, it's like, let's just get it done. In Taurus, it's like, whoa. Let's be practical about this. Does this fall into the long-term plan? Is there, what's like, we understand that there's work to be done to get to the result that we want. It's that delayed gratification. So things are going to slow down for us to be a little bit more picky about what we do and cautious about what we do, and looking at, is this going to serve the long term, and how is it going to serve the long term. Good time to focus on your finance. Taurus does rule the energy of money, which Venus is actually the planet that rules that. And so this is a good time to look at some of those, look at your finances, to look at the books, to evaluate some things, making sure you're on track for whatever goals you have around money. People around you, or even yourself, might find yourself being more patient and more practical. So Mars is generally not the planet of being very patient or practical, for that matter. They're very much like, let's just go and get the job done, and that's it. Taurus, not so much. So when Mars is in Taurus, it has to slow down, and it has to learn to be patient. And so you might find that there's a little bit more energy of being patient and practical. That's good for us to know, especially as those of us that are in business, right? Because if people are going to be more patient and more practical, we need to give them the space to be able to do that, but also giving them the information so that they can make the best decision for themselves, right? Empowering them to make a really powerful decision for themselves. Definitely we indulge more here because Taurus does rule over like those pleasures and desires around food in particular, or more indulgent experiences, that sensual energy. And so there is more of that wanting to come through here too. So pay attention. You might want to feel into that a little bit more than you might normally. But overall, there's the stubbornness, the defensiveness. Taurus could definitely be stubborn and defensive. I don't know anything about that at all. um, and also change. So this is, again, something for us to note as entrepreneurs. If we might be resistant to change or to try something different in our life and in our business, there's also this idea of the people that we're serving might be resistant to change. They might want to follow what's tried and true, and they don't want to make a change. They don't want to do something different. They want to keep to the same old. And so, although the tried and true does work, sometimes we do need to make some changes if we want to get a different result, right? If we keep doing the same thing, it's insanity, right? We don't get a different result, we get the same result. If we change something, we're going to get a different result. And so that might be the energy that we might have to pull people into or open up for them. And we may need to even open that up for ourselves, of this idea of maybe changing things, of trying something different. All right, my friend, let's dive a little bit more into Mars and some of the transits that are going to happen. So I want to look at two in particular. And this one here is on the 14th, where Mars is going to be trine Pluto. And then we've got this one over here on the 16th with Mercury. We've got a square over here to Mercury. So let's talk about Mars and Pluto. Mars trine Pluto, there's more goal-directed energy here, very ambitious energy. Now, keep in mind, Mars is going to be in Taurus, right? As I just said. So it's going to be practical, right? It has to make sense for a long-term goal, okay? More assertive and more direct, especially when it comes to maintaining harmony, cooperation, and impressing people, especially those in more of a power position. There's more of that energy here. So we can move through really challenging situations here, obstacles, things that might get in our way. We're able to kind of really move through those with ease. So know that if there is something coming up that might be a little bit more challenging, you're going to be able to move through it with ease. And just, how do I say this? Like, there's this energy, especially with Mars and Pluto, where it's like, you can't miss me. Like, I want you to make sure that you saw me. I want you to make sure that you know that I'm here. Like I need you to know. So there could be some of that also coming through here that I want you to just pay attention to, right? And notice that about yourself. Notice if you're like, hey, no. I need you to see me, right? I need to be heard. And noticing where that might be coming from, right? Is it a belief? Is it truth? Is it fiction? Right? What is coming through here? Now with the Mars square Mercury over here, we're talking about thinking. Mars is that action, go, go, go. Mercury is our thoughts, it's our thinking, it's our processing, it's our communication. So things get sped up here. This is like rushing into things, jumping to conclusions, aggressive communication. Conflicts tend to happen during this period. And this is all the way from the 16th of July through the 3rd of August. So we're going to see this for a couple of weeks where there's can be a little bit more challenging, definitely have an impact on our relationships. We want to be careful here, making sure we are listening and we're thinking before we are speaking. We are not just letting things out, because Mars is going to be in Taurus. So it is going to have a little bit more of like a filter, but it also is very, very stubborn and it will get stuck on something. It will get focused in on whatever it is, whatever its thought is, whatever its idea is, and it's going to be hard to shake. And so not only are we like rushing to a conclusion, but we're also holding to it. So I want you to keep this in mind as we move through this. Now, remember, everything that I'm saying here, we will also go through each week as these come up. I will remind you and make you aware of them. I just want to make sure that you are aware of these things so that you can be prepared as we move forward. All right, let's move into Mercury. So Mercury is our planet of communication, our thinking, like our thinking processes. And so where currently, when we come back to the first here, we see that Mercury is in Cancer. So I talked about this in last month's overview, but Mercury in Cancer, we move from the desire for quantity to quality information, quality conversations, quality thoughts. Like we really want this quality experience. We think, speak, and take in information on a more deeper instinctual level. So less interest on what everybody is saying, more interest on how it's affecting us personally, how it's affecting the people, like our people, right? Our close circles. There's a lot of emotional thinking, emotional thoughts that are coming through, and it's less. It's more challenging to be objective. Let's just say, because our thoughts are being fueled by our emotion. And I mentioned this in last month's, is that I'm very emotional. I'm a Cancer moon, so I'm a very emotional person, and so I understand that there are times where I'm leading with my emotion, and I have to bring the logic in to balance me out. Because I want to lead with the emotion, but there's this and there's this and there's this, and then my Taurus just gets really stubborn, and then I have to bring in the logic to be like, oh yeah, that's right. So that's where this is going to play over the next few weeks as Mercury is in Cancer. So let's look at who Mercury is interacting here in the first part of the month, because Mercury moves out of Cancer on the 19th of July. So this first half of the month we'll have in Cancer. All right, so we did have this opposition over here to Pluto that came in on the 30th of June. So this is where we have the battle of ideas. Competitiveness comes into play, like wanting to be right. This is also, though, really good time for research because we're talking about Pluto. Pluto likes to go deep, it likes to go down and uncover hidden information. So there may be things that are kind of like coming out or exposed. And this is going to be mainly for this first week here in July, a lot of mental energy. And so I would invite you to direct that energy into making really good lists, into getting that information somewhere, because it might not be things that you need to act right now. It might be things for later, but really get the information down because there might be some really good things that are coming through for you. Also, self-awareness, self-analysis. This is also a really good time to be aware of like, why am I thinking this? Why is this a habit that I have, right? What is this teaching me? What am I here to learn about this? What can I learn about this? These are all really good questions to help you get a deeper understanding of self. So inside Cosmic Alignment, this is one of the things that we do in our evening reflection is we look at what emotion was prominent for the day, right? And why? Why was that emotion prominent? What happened, right? It might have started off one way, it might have ended a different way. What happened in that? Why are we feeling that, right? Getting deeper into what emotions or what thoughts are really driving our day. There could also be some persuasion and obsession happening here because Pluto definitely can get very possessive or obsessive about things. It wants to control things or it wants to obsess over things. It can get really fixed. It's a fixed energy here. So there could be some of that coming through in our thoughts where we're getting stuck on a thought and stuck on a thought and stuck on a thought and we can't shake it. And so much so that we go down the rabbit hole, right? And we get lost and we get so far away from what it is. And we're just like down this rabbit hole and we come up days later, like, what just happened? So I want you to be mindful of this because we're looking to find the hidden truth. We're like, what is down there? What can I find? And so just be mindful that that energy can definitely distract you. As well. So just be careful of that. Like I'm not saying that you shouldn't go research because absolutely, my friend, you should research everything. You should always research. You should always do your own digging. My concern is that you get stuck, and that's what I don't want you to do. So be careful there. Now, what's also playing here is Neptune. This is happening about the same time. So 29th of June all the way to the 6th of July. So pretty much the same time that we have this energy with Pluto, which is why I want to point this out. Neptune is more of that imagination and that creativity. So we might be dreaming up these fantasies, these stories, these ideas of something that is not true. We may struggle because we're trying to find the detail of something and not looking at the overall picture. Like we're so focused on this one thing that we're not looking at the overall picture. We're not looking at the bigger impact that something might make. We're so focused on this one little detail. So and then with that Pluto, right, we're getting obsessed about it. I want you to just be very, very mindful of this because this can definitely, right, take us in that rabbit hole of this illusion and mess with us. So be very, very, very clear on what you're doing and why you're doing it. This is why I'm telling you self-awareness and just an even simple daily reflection of where was my energy today can be really powerful. All right. So Mercury moves into Cancer on the I already wait. Leo. Let's talk about Leo. We're worried about Mercury moving into Cancer. Let's talk about Mercury moving into Leo. So when Mercury moves into Leo, so let me show you here. We're going to fast forward. Here we go to the 19th. Now, when Mercury is in Leo, our thinking is much more confident, bigger thinking here. The focus is on the goal. And the grander the goal, the better. The details, not important to us at all. Don't really care about the details. It's all about the expression. It's about the theatrics, the drama of something. So there's storytelling here. There's a lot of influence here, a lot of convincing, persuasiveness, and just like this confidence in speaking or writing that is going to come through. So if you are somebody that wants to get be more visible, this is actually a really good time to communicate the things that you want to communicate, whether that's in a more expressive way by speaking or in writing, influencing through writing. Mercury in Leo wants very expressive communication. So if it's kind of dull, we're going to tune it out. We're not going to pay attention to it. But if there's some energy behind it or some theatrics behind it, some drama behind it, it's going to pull us in. And we're going to be like, yes, 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 tell me all the things. Tell me all the things. Where in Taurus, like, yeah, I don't really care. Just need to know what's practical, what makes sense. Leo's like, tell me the story. I need the tea. Tell me the tea. Give me all the tea. Even if for somebody that is not into that, we're going to be drawn to it. So just be mindful that you might find yourself trying to get all the tea or get all the tea. All right, let's talk a little bit about, there's a couple of transits. There's two in particular that I want to talk about during this period when Mercury does move into Leo. Number one is the Chiron. So we have here a trine over here to Chiron, and the second is this square over here to Uranus. So on the 14th, we'll have Mercury trine Chiron, and on the 16th, we'll have Mercury square Uranus. And we're going to have those till the 24th and 29th of the month. So with Mercury trine Chiron, right? This one right here, remember Chiron is the wounds. This is where we want our message to be heard. There's our wounds, what is that? Triumph, trauma into triumph. One of my good friends, it's one of her taglines in her new program. I believe it's that. It is, trauma into triumph. Or we might have heard mess into message, right? It's that idea of our wounds and our traumas being an important part of our life, an important part of our story, where it's no longer a disempowering thing, but it's a very, very empowering thing. And so there's a opportunity for us because of some of these other things that I just said, right? With Mercury being in Leo, is to express our story and share our parts of our story that we have healed, right? We're not coming from the wound, we're coming from healing, that we can then share, that can actually impact people. And we might be able to be able to do that. And that is a beautiful thing, right? Also, what I found, even the parts where I do feel I have healed aspects of my own trauma, right? I even find that as I share it, there is more healing that happens through that, right? Healing for the people that are hearing it, but also healing for myself. Healing that I'm receiving by sharing those stories and getting deeper insights into wow, right? One year, I think it was like 2019 or 2020, I was on like 20 different podcasts and I shared my story over and over and over again. And each time I got more and more clarity around certain aspects that, like, whoa, right? Based on the questions that I would get asked or how I was sharing it or the things that I was learning about during that time, that it just, wow, I just had these deeper understandings. And so this is an opportunity for us to do that. Now, the Mercury square Uranus. Now we did talk about, right, that conjunction over here with Mars, but when we have this this square over to this conjunction with Mars and Uranus, whenever we're talking about Uranus, you've heard me say this, this is where changes start to happen, where there's unexpected things. There could be news or experiences that are upsetting, maybe not what you were looking for, but they're causing some type of change. They're causing you to change some things up. Like the example of, wanting to have more freedom in your life and then in your job, right? The universe, God, the divine source, is always working for you. And so these things that happen, these changes that happen in planets, they're inviting us, right, towards what we want, towards what we desire. Everything is always working out for us. It's working in our favor, even though, my friend, I understand it does not always feel good. It is working for us. So, Mercury here with Uranus, there could be some unsettling things that are happening. This is a time for us to be really clear, and hear me out here, on what it is that we want, what it is that we desire. That's the very first thing that we always work on cosmic alignment, and that is clarity of intention. What is it that we want? Being crystal clear, because everything is always working out for us in our favor. So what is it that we want? The other thing I'm going to say with this particular transit with Mercury and Uranus is that you're easily distracted. So there's mishaps in communication, in travel, because we talk about Mercury here. So there could be some things that happen because of us not paying attention to the details. We want the big, bold statements. I don't care about the details. Making spontaneous decisions on things, like quick decisions, right? And spur of the moment type things. That's what this energy is. All right, let's move on to Venus and talk a little bit about what's going on with Venus here. So, Venus is actually going to be making some shifts this month. She is moving, let me tell you. So, we kick off, as I mentioned at the beginning, in Gemini. And then on the 7th, she is going to move out of Gemini and she is going to move into Cancer. So right here, we see Venus moving into Cancer. So let me tell you a little bit about that. And then at the end of the month, because she's going to be in Cancer till the 30th, on the 31st, she's going to move out of Cancer and into Leo. So we're pretty much going to have Venus in Cancer through July, but the very end, she is going to move into Leo, and we will see her in Leo all the way through August. So when Venus moves into Cancer here, we've got this nostalgia. There's a yearning for connection, and in particular, more focused around female relationships and family. I would even say romance that also come into play here, because we're talking about Venus, and Venus does rule love. With Cancer, it does tend to focus more on female relationships, mother, grandmother, aunts, cousins, daughters, right? More of that, moms, right? That female relationships, and also the bigger family, the family connections. So Cancer is a water sign. So there's much more intuitiveness that comes through here. So our intuition is really strong, which can help us know who to trust, especially when making decisions. Like, who do I go to get some clarity, to help me get clear, right? It's not that we go to somebody to ask for their permission, right? We don't go to somebody to ask them to make the decision for us. We go to help us clarify what it is that we want to make. Sometimes we need that permission of somebody being like, what you're saying, right? It's accurate, it's valid, right? Sometimes we do need that, but this is a time for us to follow our intuition, to trust our intuition, to connect with our intuition. Things are, especially around relationships, wanting to be easier, wanting it to be a little bit more easier. We're wanting people to feel special. We're wanting to feel special. It's like, sometimes we say, oh, I don't want a big thing, or I don't want gifts, or I don't want that. Yet, like, when it happens, it's like, oh, that was sweet, right? It's like we're wanting to feel special, especially during this time. So any way that you can make those around you feel special, or notice that you're probably also desiring that as well. Our emotions can run high. I do want to point this out. They can run high, which means there's more sensitivity, and there's this nurturing and supportive energy that comes through with Cancer. So emotions running high can be a lot of different things, right? I can get emotionally driven by something and lose my shit. Or I can, there could be people around me who are emotionally driven and losing their stuff, right? Not knowing how to handle all the things that are coming up. So notice again, right? People are people and they're gonna people. You are only in control of you. You get to only be in control of you. Isn't that beautiful? You only get to be in control of you. You don't get to control what your kids do, what your parents do, what your friends do, what your coworkers do, what your boss, like you don't get to control any of that. You only get to control you. Whew, thank goodness. It can be really hard to control other people. So you notice where your energy is at. I saw this reel the other day and it was like, your triggers, right? Your trigger is not that other person's problem, it's yours. Your triggers are your problem, they are nobody else's. I'm sorry that person triggered you, but that's for you to work on. Then I'm not trying to be insensitive there, but that's truth. Like that person may have triggered you. Keyword in here, you got triggered. That person is that person. They're going to say, they're going to do, right? Whatever they're going to do, it's you looking at why you got triggered. Why did that offend me? Why did that upset me? Why am I feeling this, right? That's for our own internal work. All right. Let's dive into some of the things here with Venus that I want to point out. So the one I really want to point out here is this opposition with Pluto. So we've heard about a couple of different oppositions with Pluto here, but I want to bring this one into play because this is relationships. So this brings tension into our relations, pressure, where there could be hurt feelings, suspicion, threat, jealousy, possessiveness can also come through here. There's some drama. There's some drama here. Manipulation and power plays, especially we can see with Venus opposite Pluto. So this is July 8th through the 17th. So there's this week in here where things can get a little bit funky. So I would say I would avoid substances, would avoid dating during this period. I would avoid anything that's going to cause disillusion, okay? Or take you into a darker place. Probably not a good time. So for those of you that work with plant medicine, I'd be very cautious during this period as you work with medicine. I'd be very cautious. Make sure you are in a safe container that is really set up for your safety and security, because there could be some energy here that could be harsh. I'll put that out. You want more details and how this might affect you, let me know, and we can do a reading so I can really tell you how this might affect you. Power controls can also happen here, which is why we want to be cautious of the things that we're interacting with during this period, because there is some, especially if we don't have all of our senses with us, we might miss out on things. And so because there could be some manipulative tactics here, I'm just going to caution you to be really careful during this period. So I wanted to make sure that I pointed that out. The other one I want to point out is the sextile over here to Jupiter, which happens right after this on the 16th. So let's come over here to the 16th. And we'll see this sextile over here to Jupiter. Now, this is the time to go out and have fun. This is partying. This is connecting with people. It's a really good energy, good vibes, socializing, feeling good, like just making friends. There could be a tendency towards excess. I will say that we might want to get into things or indulge in things that might not be the best for us, but this is definitely more of a more positive energy, and this will be all the way through the 26th. And then the very, very end of the month, we've got this square over here to Uranus. So let me go over to that one on the 28th that I want to make sure I talk about as well as we look ahead. This is Venus square Uranus right here. So we still have that trine over here to Chiron, as well as Uranus, and which is why I wanted to point this out. Again, whenever we're talking about Uranus, you've heard me say this throughout this video, is there's unexpected changes, urges to change things, right? So there's a need for freedom here. and excitement, especially as it relates to relationships and money. And with this energy over here, Chiron, of those old wounds coming forward, I'm going to caution you here that we might want to just throw money at something just to throw money at something. Or we might feel so confined or bored that we're wanting this freedom and we act impulsively and just destroy things. So in healthy relationships, this is really great because we can explore new things together. In unhealthy relationships, this looks like cheating. This looks like lying, deceiving, manipulating. So I want to bring this forward because if things are not cohesive or copacetic in some of your relationships, there could be some of this kind of coming through. It's kind of like suppressed energy is wanting to come out. That's what it feels like. It's like things that I might not have dealt with or I have not said to my partner are going to want to come out, and they come out fast and furious and not very nice. So be mindful of this. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is there's two things. Let me just look at, there's two things here. Okay, so the first one is going to be Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is going to be making a square over to Saturn. So these are our two bigger planets that are going to be square each other. Now, when we have a square, things can get a little bit tense. So this particular transit is going to be 2 months. So July 22nd all the way through September 22nd, there is this, because Saturn is also in retrograde, there is this inner tension that we might be facing within ourselves. Criticisms, long-held beliefs might be broken down, structures might be broken down, areas where we feel like we have no control, hardships, rocky relationships where things are like, right? Because there's this inner things, inner how do I say this? Inner traumas, right? Inner difficulties, challenges that we have not expressed that are wanting to bubble up to the surface. So destructive patterns be coming forward. The good thing about this, though, all of this, is that they're reaching their point. So as for those of you that follow tarot, right, we've got the 10 of Wands here. I pulled this card of the day, and the 10 of Wands, like a 10, the 10s in tarot is like the completion of a cycle. That's what this is. It's like the completion of a cycle. We're ready to step onto the next stage. We're ready to move forward into the next thing. And we want to make sure that our foundation is strong. And so we've got to face some of these limitations that we might be feeling and move through them, create space in ourselves so that we can pull back in what it is we actually want. So there's really good opportunity for us to have some advancements, to move through some things really nicely if we are facing those inner criticisms that are coming from self. Okay. Now, the last thing is our final retrograde that we're going to see during this month, and that takes place on the 2nd of July, and that is Uranus. So Saturn goes retrograde on the 30th, and then Uranus goes retrograde on the 2nd. So any retrograde is a time for us to look inside. It's a time for us to evaluate, right? Reassess. So when Uranus is direct, he's bringing things into light, so to speak. He awakens, right? He's the awakener. He awakens things. So he does that by, bringing on these unexpected things, these changes, changing our norm, and inviting us to embrace change. When he goes retrograde, this softens. And we're more focused on internal changes than external changes, because the inner world is a reflection of our outer world. And so he invites us now to come in and to evaluate the internal realm. So he encourages internal reflection, especially mindset, deeper healing work, rethinking what our, larger objectives are for life, for this incarnation, strategies, business, career. He wants us to explore our limitations, right? Where we see some of this with Saturn, where we're looking at our boundaries. Uranus asks us to evaluate the self-imposed restrictions, new perspectives, new actions, more of that inventive energy. This is very, very inventive. So the things that we are looking at and shifting are the slow movement, the slow process, revealing to us things for the long term. Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind, because this is very much of a slow burn here. So as we move through this retrograde period with Uranus, I want you to invite yourself to view, reflect, to reimagine that internal world, and where you are allowing change, where you're allowing flexibility is also really time. We're still in that Gemini energy right here at the beginning of the month. All right, my friend, looking at my notes just to make sure there's nothing else that I have missed that I needed to tell you. And I'm noticing that I did miss one. That is the Neptune retrograde. So Neptune right here goes a retrograde on the 2nd as well. So we got Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. All three of these planets will be retrograde beginning of this month. Now, Uranus, I'd say this, but Uranus is going to go all the way through January 20th of next year. Neptune will be retrograde all the way till the 7th of December of this year. So we'll have Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune all retrograde over this next period. Mercury will also be retrograde later this year. But we have this period right here where these big three are going retrograde, and then we'll have November, where Saturn falls off, December, where Neptune falls off, and Uranus again on the 20th of next year. So let me tell you a little bit about Neptune going retrograde here, because Neptune is more of that spiritual awakening, more of that spiritual planet, that transcendence type energy. So this can create challenges for us in maintaining a clear sense of self, right? Because we're wanting to transcend, we're wanting to go beyond. So Neptune is asking us to look at our spiritual pursuits, look at the what we're seeking in spirituality, what we're seeking in something that is greater than ourself. It is also a good time to look at our ideal version of us, our higher self, our best self, and connecting into that energy, seeing where we may have stumbled, looking at the disappointments that we may have had in life, or the unconscious commitments that we have made to work, to relationships. There is a lot of fantasy and illusion that comes through with Neptune, and so it's like looking internally, like where is that coming through for us? Where is that fantasy coming through? Where are we being idealistic? And where are we not allowing ourselves to be in imagination, to be creative, to be visioning? So this one for Neptune, for me, I tend to be able to notice things a little bit more clearer when it goes retrograde, because when it is direct, it kind of blurs things. But when it's retrograde, it's as if that cloud has been cleared, the veil has been lifted, and you can see the harsh realities. It's like those colored glasses have now been removed, and I can now see. And so now I'm looking at what is actually happening, and I'm not deceived by the illusion any longer. It's almost as if you've awakened. So, my friend, this is a beautiful book. We're going to be talking more about these retrogrades over the next few weeks in our forecast. So, stay tuned for those. But, my friend, this has been your Sidereal Astrology July forecast overview for 2024. I hope you have got some golden nuggets here, taking some really good notes. And I look forward, this is a little bit longer than we normally have. So thank you for bearing with me and staying all the way to the end. If you stood all the way to the end, let me know down below by just giving me the prayer hands emoji or the high five, the prayer hands emoji or the high five emoji. Let me know that you stood all the way to the end of this video. My friend, we've got a lot going on. There's more that you can find out down below in the description, or if you're catching this on the podcast, in the show notes. There's opportunities for you to reflect, release, and align this month. And my friend, have a beautiful, beautiful day. Have a beautiful month, and we'll see you in the next forecast.